The very first Manitoba Podcast Festival goes down International Podcast Day, Sunday, September 30th, 12 to 4 p.m. at the Park Theatre. Manitoba's podcast community gathers for an afternoon of networking, education, and so much more, featuring local podcast hosts, producers, radio personalities, taking part in panel discussions and Q&As. Take part in this fantastic networking opportunity. You can like us on Facebook at Manitoba Podcast Festival. Tickets are just $5. The very first Manitoba Podcast Festival, Sunday, September 30th at the Park Theatre.
Thank you to everyone who supports my dad's show. If you'd like to support Witchpolice Radio, go to patreon.com/witchpolice today.
You're listening to Garbage Hill, Winnipeg's first podcast network.
All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I'm in the food court again, which is like the second home of the show at this point because I keep doing these. But I guess maybe the best way to start things, I mean, I'm sitting across from a man with a giant WR317 Riel tattoo on his hand, and that might be a good lead into kind of who you are and where you're coming from.
Yeah, my name's Dan, and I'm in a band called A Rebel Named Riel.
Yeah.
And we specifically chose that name to pay tribute to the founder of Manitoba and how important that should be, not just to myself, but to people that are living in or around or from Manitoba, right?
Sure.
So, I thought when we were trying to pick a name, I wanted it to be really culturally identifying to where we were from.
Well, it's very obviously a Manitoba thing, right? I mean, as soon as you see that name or that image, it's, for sure.
Yeah, so it was how can we pay tribute to this dude that, did some wonderful things. He was a little bit crazy at the end of his life, but he was a real badass. So
yeah. Well, and it's weird too because I feel like a lot of other cultures would take revolutionary figures like that and make them iconic. I mean, the people wearing like Che Guevara, for example, right? You go to Cuba, his face is everywhere. People have long shirts. Louis Riel, a little bit different, but similar kind of fighting against the unjust government kind of thing, and being a really important figure in the creation of the province. And he's still not at that level of like just you don't see him everywhere. There's statues and things named after him, but it's So that's a fairly bold statement, I guess, having them right on your hand there. Like. Yeah,
it was even before we had chose the name. I had just remembered I wanted to get Louis Riel on my hand. This is years ago, and then one of the first songs that our band wrote was called For Riel, and it was a lot of hidden history in the song that you wouldn't really know if you listened to it, but if you knew the history, then you could be like, oh, okay, well,
you can make the connections.
Cool. So he's always been someone that I've been really, really proud of.
Yeah.
And as a Métis person, if you don't know who Louis Riel is, or you really, how Métis are you?
Right. Yeah. Well, even just any Manitoban really at this point. I mean, because just his status as the founder of the province and everything. Even if you don't know anything else, you know the name, right? So, So that's. I mean, not to dwell on him too much, but obviously, like the name of the group and the tattoo are very, very strong. So, how would you define the sound of the group? I mean, I've listened to some stuff online, and there's some different things going on there. But what would you, if someone is like, they hear you're in a band, what does it sound like?
So like I like to tell people that like I do my best to be a storyteller, but so in the same sense that Gord Downey does his job to tell an amazing story in his own personal views and points. What I'm starting to realize more and more as I continue to write music for this project is that it's becoming more and more culturally based, and more about my views as a Métis or an Indigenous person.
Cool.
So it's as much as I'd like to just say, like this is the type of music I write. Like the music I write is more because of the person that I'm growing into. So the more I learn about Métis history and the more I understand and appreciate it, my music really is starting to reflect that more and more. And I mean, I think of a few songs offhand that are very landscape based.
Okay.
So I try to use what I see around me and write about that.
Sure. Yeah.
So I mean, even in For Riel, I'm talking more about like his views and him creating Manitoba, but using Manitoba's landscape to talk about how he's creating this province.
Sure. Manitoba's landscape as in how it is now, or how it would have been?
How it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before all of this.
Before all the cement and buildings.
Where we wouldn't be in a mall right now. Yeah.
Exactly. We wouldn't be in this food court.
Yeah.
But no. So and I really feel like a lot of the music that I'm writing now is totally different than from when the band started.
Okay.
So we've realized, okay, this is what we are. So this is the type of music we need to be writing.
Yeah.
And so.
Did that just happen organically too?
Yeah. So and I mean, like I would just be writing and I'd be like, oh, you know, this song isn't gonna fit.
Right.
This song isn't gonna fit, and then all of a sudden it's just progressively became that I know exactly which songs are always going to be working for the project.
Right.
And it was never really a thought that like, oh, I need to be writing these types of songs for this. For A Rebel Named Riel.
Yeah.
It just started to happen where I started writing and realizing like, oh wow, like I'm writing more and more Métis or indigenously based music, so to speak, as opposed to when we first started. It was like, oh, I wrote a new song. Oh, I wrote a new song.
Right.
I wrote a new song. Let's play these songs. Now now I'm picking and choosing more to make sure that I'm getting off the right message that goes with the band.
Okay. When you talk about the cultural element of it, is that in the lyrics as well as the music? Like, I mean, obviously the lyrics is a very strong way to do that.
It's starting to be more.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know if I wanted us to be that way. I didn't know if that's where I wanted us to be, but the more that the project has grown into what it is, it's important for me to lay on those indigenous messages and be more culturally based. I feel like that lacks in a lot of music.
It does.
Where people from all backgrounds are writing ridiculously great music, but they're not talking about where they're from or how important it is or why they're so proud to be from wherever
it is they're from. Yeah. Well, because it's the choice between doing something that has a universal message or something that has a message that people can grasp universally, but also strongly tied to a place or a time or culture.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. I'm not sure if I read this right, but are you from Thompson? Is that?
So the band started in Thompson.
Okay.
Like I had met our drummer on Kijiji.
Okay.
This is like 5 years ago. We met on Kijiji in Winnipeg.
Okay.
And so we started playing out and just basically playing open mics and just jamming together.
Just the two of you?
Yeah. And then he became a teacher and he's like, hey, so like I got to leave for work.
Right.
And that was it. We didn't really speak after that. And then I moved to Thompson and was working in the university there. Okay. And was walking down the hall and we caught each other's eyes. Cool. And it was just like, no way, like as if you're living here now. Like, do you want to start a band? And he was just like, yeah. So we just started jamming and we had a lot of different people come and jam with us. And then eventually we had these people that wanted to be a part of this all the time. Yeah. And we didn't even really have a name at that point. We just knew like, oh yeah, we all want to play this type of music. This is a lot of fun. And it ended up growing into what it is today.
This is a place that no one knows. The city lights down long ago, and here we are at the core. Hello sun and hello moon. It's nice to finally say that I've been you. In the wind, I'll put you there so you don't stop moving. So what if I asked you to stay? Or what if I had half a mind nothing's ever been the same. Here at the Cove, here at the Cove, at the wished her happy birthday a day late. She said it's okay, nothing's ever worth the wait. And here we are all alone. We don't need love, we can make our own. Here at the Cove, here at the Cove. I know it's wrong to feel this way. It's so easy to make it feel okay. I never wanted anything more than this. I wanted everything, and I have every fucking bit. We're at the Cove. Fuck.
I still remember our first show we played a teachers event at the curling club.
Okay.
We got paid we got a $15 gift card to the liquor mart.
Not bad.
And so at our next
Start,
band
yeah.
practice, we're passing around this Mickey that we bought with
Yeah,
our gift
the
card,
one
and we're
Mickey,
just
right,
like,
yeah.
yes, this is awesome. And one of the last shows that we played in Thompson, we ended up sharing the same stage with 5440.
Oh, cool.
And we ended up getting paid like $2,000.
That's awesome.
And it was just like, so it was like, holy crap, like
How
we
long
really,
was it
really
between the two
progressed.
shows? Was it pretty quick?
It took about a year to get there, but we're playing shows in bars almost every
Yeah.
single weekend,
Yeah.
and we're starting to make a really big name for ourselves. And then myself, I joined a northern group called Poetry in Motion.
Yeah, I saw something with that. Yeah.
And so Poetry in Motion was basically just mostly hip-hop artists,
Yeah.
but they really wanted to expand into
Okay.
different genres.
Like to
and
perform with live instruments kind of thing? Or?
yeah, so like I ended up performing on a friend, his name is Dag. Shout out to Dag. We ended up performing on where I sang some songs on his album.
Okay, cool.
I did a song with him as well as Mocha Only from
really? Okay.
Swollen
Yeah, yeah,
Members,
yeah.
and that song was a very, I feel, had an indigenous platform to it where it was called Planet B, and it's really, really about how we only have one Earth and we need to take care of where we're from. I mean, you don't destroy your house.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Otherwise, how do you live there?
Right.
So I mean, it's the same. We're all sharing the same Earth. So what can we do to better that
For everybody.
And so I was really, really, really pumped to be on that song because they were like, "Hey, do you want to sing this hook?"
Yeah.
And Mocha Only is a phenomenal singer, so I'm like,
Sure, yeah.
I don't know if. And they ended up using the hook, and so I was really, really pumped about that.
Cool.
You can buy it on iTunes.
Yeah.
And just plug that in there really quick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so I joined Poetry in Motion. I was doing projects with them, and they really, really helped me push my music as well, and helped me make some videos for some of my original
Yeah, I think I saw some
original
of that
tunes.
stuff. Yeah.
So they helped me push it, and then we moved to Winnipeg when the band kind of everybody parted ways.
Okay.
My drummer got a teaching job in Grand Forks, BC.
Okay.
And
It's a bit too far to make that work. Yeah.
yeah, and we still we played in Vision Fest in Wolseley this year.
Okay, yeah.
He was able to. He had an opportunity to fly out to Winnipeg, so so he was like, well, that works. I'm going to be there for the weekend,
Yeah.
so we were able to perform that.
It's a good little festival too. It's growing and stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and like watching all the other performers, they were phenomenal. I was really, really pumped that they asked us to close the event. So
yeah, I was there. I saw some kind of cover band that was playing a bunch of old guys, but this is pretty good.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
They had like a choir right before us that was just they were like phenomenal.
Cool.
So
So what is? I've never been to Thompson. I don't know too much about it. I mean, I know that wolf painting, the one that is on every. That's my extent of my knowledge of Thompson.
I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's the largest.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah,
it's the largest art installation in the world.
It's pretty cool. It's huge, right? Like I've seen photos of it. It looks super
and
cool. But
it wouldn't be considered. If I understand correctly, it wouldn't be considered an art installation if it wasn't lit up at night.
Oh, really?
But because it's so you can see it visibly during the day and at nighttime.
Right. From everywhere, I guess, right? Yeah.
Literally, it's phenomenal. And actually, the Tragically Hip have a song about Thompson Girl.
Thompson Girl, yeah.
And their bass player, if I'm correct, married a woman from Thompson,
cool.
so that's where that song came from.
Huh.
Yeah.
So what is the music scene like in Thompson? Because it's a fairly small. I mean, I know it's a city, right? But it's a small city, like by comparison to Winnipeg, obviously.
From when I moved there to when I left, it had grown phenomenally.
Yeah.
So when I was there, we were really pushing to get shows in different places. And even really, like, the bars weren't doing too much. They would hire bands from out of town, cover bands to come in. But it wasn't really, the local scene wasn't really there.
Right.
But I mean, now there's artists like the Richard Farrell Band. He played Dauphin Country Fest this year, and he was nominated for Indigenous Music Awards. And there was actually an owner who took over a restaurant in Thompson who pretty much wanted live music every night.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So he was pushing artists from all over, like, who can we get here to play? And
well, it's off the beaten track as far as touring, right? Because I mean, people are going a straight line across the country. You got to go up to get to Thompson.
And so it was, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I didn't really see a sense of a music community.
Okay.
But when I moved from there, the sense of the music community was strong.
That's good.
And maybe that was just more because I had started to become friends with a lot of these artists.
Yeah, you've been in it, right? So for sure.
And so I had started to meet a lot of these people, but I didn't feel that it was there until I left. And unfortunately, I mean, I wish I would have stayed, but for personal choices, I chose to come back to the city. I felt I would have more of an opportunity to really expand and diversify my music being here as opposed to there.
For sure. Well, I mean, the music scene here is so huge, right? I mean, I've been doing this for almost 6 years now, and I still haven't even come close to interviewing everybody. There's so many bands that it's out of control. So the opportunities are.
We had initially started a project. I think that's how we met a lot of the artists. So we started an initiative called Jamming for Jackets, which was our way of trying to raise awareness for homelessness, addiction, and poverty within the community.
Was that in Thompson still?
Yeah, and because it's on average the temperature. If you look at the average temperature throughout the whole year, it's below zero. So I imagine being a homeless person, it's got 45, 55 below.
That's brutal.
And you're not allowed into the homeless shelter if you're intoxicated. So those addiction issues come into play as well. And
people are probably dying all the time from just exposure, right?
So we thought, so it was myself and Poetry in Motion that thought, what can we do to make a difference? So we started Jamming for Jackets, and the first year we had some interest from some local bands, and it really took off. The second year we had the biggest bands in Thompson. Cool. The third year we had the biggest bands, Wakefire. They play in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I've heard the name for sure, but
And so they were really, really pumped to play, and I believe some of their members are from Dreadnought, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
So having them come out and want to play was awesome. We had another band, Monolith, and the Average Joes, and a lot of bands that were just forming as they were coming out to perform. So it was
that's cool.
Some of their first shows.
And that's cool for them too, because they get to open on these bills with these bigger bands, right?
For sure. Yeah. And we were getting bands from the PAW that were interested in coming out, and they were we would love to be a part of this. And then we had members of Parliament coming out and saying, wow, you're doing some really cool things here. What can we do to help?
Right. So it just boosts the signal boost of the whole project.
So it became a really, really big thing, and I feel like to just finish off that question, the music community I feel is really, really growing.
That's awesome.
So it's going to continue to do amazing things, and if it wasn't for Corey Wickdahl owning Baco's restaurant,
right,
we wouldn't have the same community or the same feel that comes with performing there, because he was paying my travel. He was like, I want you to come perform. So he was paying my travel to go up there and play. And then as soon as I'm there, he's like, we're going to get you to play a show here. We're going to get you to play a show here. We're going to get you to play a show here, because you're in town, so we might as well get you to play as many shows while you're in town.
Well, I think that's what you need when you're in a smaller community like that too. You need to make it an incentive for people to come up there, right? It's like you can give them not just one show, but all the other ones, and it kind of helps. Like, oh, great, I'm coming up here. I can do 5 shows. Yeah, it's cool. I think for all of its strengths, one of the weaknesses in the Winnipeg music scene, I think, is that there's not a lot of knowledge about what's happening outside of the borders of the city. I mean, like, there's tons of great bands from Brandon. There's bands from Thompson, obviously. There's bands all over the place. But I think that it's such a large and tight-knit community here that people are sort of really immersed in what's going on in Winnipeg, and there's some great stuff happening that is just off the radar, right, for other people. So it's how was it for you coming back from Thompson and sort of getting into the music scene here? Did you?
I've been thinking about that for the last few months. I've been really feeling like the music community here is totally different from music communities that I've experienced. With my genre, it's been quite difficult to really get my foot in the door. I feel like my foot's there now, but being a part of Poetry in Motion and seeing how welcoming and open arms the hip hop community has really showed me how diversified different communities are with different genres. The hip hop community is like I played shows at hip hop shows because they were just like, we want to put you on the bill.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And then I've been in contact with bands about, hey, I'd be really interested in performing with you guys. Yeah. And no response.
Oh wow.
And so, but I've also noticed it's like, okay, like, my effort should be to be at as many open mics as I can be,
and get the name out,
networking and meeting with all these, because once I do meet with a lot of these different artists, they're like, we really want to get you on the bill. But to just get a stranger on, sometimes it's been difficult for me to say like, hey, I want to get on and perform,
because they don't know who you are, right? And there's no like pre-existing relationship. Whereas there's probably 10 other people who do a similar style to you, and they're like, oh, we already know this guy, so we're going to bring him on.
And that's totally fair. Like I'm not insulted in the least. It's just I'm learning. The music community here is different from what I've experienced. So I'm having to learn how to grow with that and make sure that I'm doing as much or whatever possible to be a part of those communities. And busking has been amazing for me. It's really nice to just say like I get paid to practice.
Right. Well, that's what it is, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I do that as much as I can, and that's given me a lot of opportunities to play shows. I met Laura Artis and Connor Biggs, and I met Laura Artis busking in a skywalk, and she was just like, hey, you're like really good. Do you want to play this house show that I'm doing next week? And I went out, and then I met a lot of other artists at that show, and then ended up, because of that show, ending up playing the summer series at the Dramatic Arts Center.
The Ellis Theater.
So that gave me some more opportunities, and I didn't know that just from busking I would get these other opportunities. I've had True North Entertainment walk up to me in the skywalk and say like, dude, like, we've seen you here for the last couple of months, like we want to put you on one of our shows in the future. What's your email? And so now they've just gotten in contact with me, and we're talking more about like where they're going to fit me in. And so that's super cool. Just from the busking, I'm starting to get recognized, and people come up all the time and they're like, where's your next show? Like, I want to come and check you out. Like, you're pretty good. So where can we come and see you live? And
hopefully the answer is not, well, tomorrow at the same spot.
No, for sure. So, but my answer is always, like, we're doing our best. I'm doing my best to get in with the community so that I can start playing and performing out more.
Well, I think that kind of hustle too is something that's important for someone coming into a new music community like that. A lot of people will start out, especially as solo artists, like, I'm going to play something and I want to get a show, and then when they don't get responses or they get rejected from the people they're emailing about shows or whatever, they just kind of give up, right? But you kind of have to, like, just because there's so much competition for those spots. you have to basically hustle, and obviously you're doing it, it's working.
Yeah, I push myself as much as I can, and I mean now like I'm a family man now, so so that's also been a really big hurdle is how do I compromise with childcare?
Absolutely, yeah.
And trying while I'm at home taking care of my son, how do I write music?
Sure.
You know, how do I fit that in? And when I do fit it in, when I have a chance, do I have a chance to go and perform tonight? Like, can I get to the open mic? Do I have responsibilities early in the morning that will possibly not allow me to go and do that? So those hurdles are something that I'm just now learning.
Yeah, it's tricky.
How to get over.
Well, I can totally relate. I got kids myself, and like. Part of the reason I'm doing this at a lunch hour right now is because, the time management thing is hard. I stopped playing in bands when I had kids because it was just my time didn't work out. But, so I get it.
So I'm learning and I'm learning how the community works as well. And because it's so different that I need to, so to speak, I need to change my views.
Yeah.
And growing isn't the right word, but I need to look at how the music community works here, and that needs to be my template.
Sure.
As opposed to what I was used to, and so changing my views on music community and changing how I become a part of that music community are something that I'm going to have to continue learning. But I feel like I'm getting there. I've been meeting a lot of artists that are respecting the music that I'm writing.
Well, and I've seen your name show up more often too. Just like, having just met you for the first time now, I mean, I've definitely... You're appearing places, so it's obviously working, right?
I'm getting there, for sure. I'm hoping that I'm in contact with the Marion Hotel, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna be able to play there in the next upcoming weeks.
Oh, cool, that's great.
As well as just hold on one moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
For those of you unaware, my 6-year-old is sitting right beside me, and he's asking for an iPad.
That's one of the hazards of doing this random locations. All kinds of weird stuff happens.
You didn't bring it?
Yeah. Here, look through there. Find it. Okay.
What?
One thing I was going to ask you is, going back to something you were saying earlier about the cultural aspects of your music and the Métis stuff, the Indigenous stuff, have you become involved in the local Indigenous music community? Because there seems like there's a few of them in Winnipeg. The Francophone community is its own thing, but also part of the larger community. The Indigenous music community is its own thing, also part of the larger one. But I feel like the Indigenous music in Winnipeg has been getting like a major boost lately. It seems like it's much more prominent, which is awesome because there's so many cool projects that like otherwise maybe wouldn't have been heard about. But in terms of just like general awareness and popularity, there are a lot of groups and artists that are just kind of getting big, which is great. So are you involved in that community as well? Or? Yeah,
I just had, I don't know if you're familiar with who Michael Champagne is. So he runs Aboriginal Youth Opportunities, and he just sent me a message. He was at NCI FM and sent me a Facebook message saying like, hey, like, NCI FM really wants to get in contact with you about your music.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
So I'm definitely starting to get recognized within that community. I don't know, like I can name a few artists that I'm like quite close with, like Sebastian Gaskin, who I met at a music festival up north last year. We were playing a festival called Shake at the Lake, just an hour outside of Thompson, and I met him there. He was in another band, and so then I bumped into him in Winnipeg, and ended up. I was living in Stonewall at the time, and I wanted to come into the city, and I was like, hey man, can I Airbnb your couch for a night? And he was like, oh, I'll give you one better, I can give you a bedroom. So we went out and partied for his birthday, and then went back, and so we're starting to talk about doing more music together. Cool. And so I'm starting to really get into that scene and appreciate the scene more, because you're totally correct. It's starting to grow phenomenally. And I really feel as a Métis artist, if I wasn't reflecting that in my music, then I'm doing a disservice to myself as well.
the time you read this letter, my eyes will have closed, and I will hope and wish you better than what God only knows. And when the rivers are dried out, no longer exist, and you'll have nothing left to cry about, and call me a sentimentalist, 'cause I do. But you already knew exactly where we lost it, and I think that you have forgot what love really means. So do you want to lose it all? And how do you feel right now? What if we turn somehow into something?
Yeah, so Michael Champagne has been tremendously valuable to me networking with a lot of artists. He's so in touch with a lot of different artists that he really is, he does his best to network me with a lot of artists. He's had me on his radio show. He does on Mondays. I think he's had me twice, and I am going to be on there probably in the next month as well, doing that again, talking about how what it's like to be an Indigenous songwriter within a community that's not entirely Indigenous, and how I write my music and what I've done to get where I am. And it's more to promote the youth, or not promote the music or the scene, but to encourage the youth
to do the same thing you're doing, right?
Like, you know, like there's these opportunities that, like, if you really work hard and you don't give up, you might not ever get to you know, those $1 million paychecks. But it should never really be about that either.
No, it should be about creating and about, like, you know, being able to share your message and
but if you can make a living of doing what you love, then I feel that's the dream.
That's the eventual goal, right? Regardless of how famous you are, if you can do it and that's your job is to actually create, then that's awesome. Well, I mean, as like you know, a white guy who was in the music scene since the mid-90s, like, I'm almost bummed out that I didn't know about a lot of these groups before. It seems like all these festivals are happening now and stuff, and these Indigenous artists are getting highlighted, and it's like, holy shit, these guys are great. Like, why, you know, why was no one telling me about this before? I think it's cool that now, and similarly with the French-speaking community too, a lot of these bands that, like, it's just, why weren't they part of the larger, you know, why weren't they part of the mainstream, like, Anglo white guy scene? You know what I mean? Like, it's great. It's great that it's opening up, and there's a lot of people from, like, different countries too who are playing here. They've been in their own communities for a long time, like, you know, their own immigrant communities, and suddenly they release an album and it gets more widespread, and you're like, oh crap, this is happening, like, down the street. Like, I didn't even know about this style of music at all. These guys are coming from wherever they're coming from. It's long story short of what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that the fact that music's opening up culturally and we have the ability to hear more different kinds of music is awesome, because there's so much cool stuff out there, and it would be a shame for it to be stuck in little pockets of their individual cultures or languages or whatever, and it's exciting.
I really respect that about what I've been seeing coming from Winnipeg, is that, like, the diversification is expanding, and people are really starting to recognize more cultural music than I've ever seen before.
Me too.
So, like, even like I grew up in Winnipeg, and when I was growing up, you know, like, I don't know, like, when I was growing up, like, I didn't really see a lot of local bands doing as much as I do now. You know, like, we have, like, we've always had a phenomenal music scene. I mean, or a phenomenal talent coming out of Winnipeg, like Neil Young,
Guess Who going back to the 60s.
The Guess Who, right? So like, I mean, the Guess Who was the biggest band in the world at one point.
Yeah.
So like, it's so to say that came from our hometown.
Yeah.
I really feel like we all grew up with this sense of pride for music.
Yeah.
And a different appreciation for music than other cities may have.
Well, then every few decades there'd be another band like Propaganda getting huge in the punk scene and stuff like that, and there'd be like certain bands that sort of rise above everything, and it's like, oh, they're from Winnipeg, this is great, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like even like Attica Riots and Bright Righteous.
Yeah.
I mean, they're again, and I'm not entirely familiar with the band members, right?
Yeah, no, yeah.
But I see them everywhere.
For sure.
I see them doing
still on posters. You see them
crazy badass things.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but respect for that, because like this is my hometown, and knowing that like so much amazing music is being appreciated by the entire population.
Absolutely.
Is it's really heartwarming and motivating.
Yeah, definitely. So. And then you see big festivals, even like the Jazz Festival or something, and you go to the the outdoor shows, and there's like 5 local bands on there, and they're getting as big a response as the headliner, who's someone from Toronto or whatever. It's cool to see. It's like this. Yeah, it's definitely evolving and growing, and for something that's so tight-knit and kind of incestuous, where everyone's in each other's bands and stuff, and everyone knows each other to a certain extent, it seems to be ballooning outwards, which is awesome. And I think Winnipeg is just growing. Right? There's all these new neighborhoods popping up, and like there could be some new development. There could be 8 bands there. I don't even know how to get there. It's like it's in the same city, but it's way off somewhere. Yeah. So.
Oh, and same with like the Village Idiots.
Yeah,
like they do like a phenomenal job of representing local music, and I did a singer-songwriter session, and I ended up playing. If you guys want to check it out, I played a song I wrote for WR317 Riel and a song I wrote for my grandma.
Cool.
So those are on there. And I started to see them in the like on Facebook, and I was like, holy crap! Like these guys are doing and they're just doing it because they love local music.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're not doing it because it's like they're getting a paycheck or anything.
Yeah.
It was simply for the passion of wanting to really advertise what our city has to offer
to the larger
to people that may or may not ever hear these bands. Now they have a chance to, and so doing the Facebook live shows really I feel like helped a lot of local bands become recognized and get the recognition that they totally deserve.
Well, the internet has opened that up too, right? I mean, because like when I was playing in bands when I first started, I was like a teenager. It was in the mid-90s, and that wasn't an option. You couldn't just go on Facebook Live and broadcast. You couldn't make a podcast and interview people. It was just, I think there was a tight-knit scene and there were like amazing bands, but it was very insular, because unless you were touring through or just visiting Winnipeg, you wouldn't know about anything, right? But now there's the opportunity to anyone can just make a podcast or film a video or like do what the Village Idiots are doing. It's great. It's definitely changing the map of Canada is becoming way more connected now than it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even Winnipeg to Thompson, like think about the distance there, right? Before this kind of connectivity, like people might not have even known that there was bands in either city, right? Because you're stuck there, you're stuck here. That's it, kind of. So
yeah. But now, cool. but with technology, things are changing, and if people don't take advantage of the technology that's available,
absolutely,
then it's never going to progress. But it is, because everybody's taking advantage of the technology what's out there now. So
yeah, well, I got a battery that's almost about to die here, so we got to wrap it up. But cool. First of all, before we do that, hopefully we'll catch all this. You have an album you're working on right now, right?
Yeah.
So can you just give a brief overview of what that is, and then sort of an estimate of when you're going to have it out? Do you know kind of approximately, or?
So I've been crowdfunding by selling shirts. Okay. If anybody's interested, I might, by the time this airs, I might still have some available.
Cool.
So I've been crowdfunding by selling shirts to record the album.
Okay. Is that working out so far? Is it like
no, like it's like we bought like just over 50 shirts. I think I have 10 or 15 left.
Oh, right on, that's awesome. Yeah.
So we've made quite a big chunk of change to record the album.
Cool.
And but the process has also been, there's a few songs that I'm still trying to tweak to see if I can put these ones on the album as well.
Okay.
But I'm doing my best. So for this album, I'm really trying to express who I am as a Métis person by talking about my family. So one of the first songs that I wrote for this album was No Goodbyes for my grandma, and my grandma hates saying goodbye, And so I thought, what a beautiful thing. How can I write this as a song?
Sure.
And she lives in Mesa, Arizona.
Okay,
so I never get to see her, but when she comes in, it's like see you later, Grandma.
Yeah.
But you can't say goodbye because goodbyes are permanent. Goodbyes mean you're not going to see somebody again, right?
It's too final,
So I thought, how can I incorporate this into a song? And then once I had finished that song, I was like, I really, really want this album to reflect what it's like growing up as a Métis person in a Métis family.
Okay.
And so I'm doing my best to do a lot of that storytelling from my perspective as a Métis person.
Cool.
And appreciating and respecting my culture as much as I possibly can.
Cool. And do you know when that's, like, do you have a kind of a timeline of you hoping to release it, or is it
before Christmas?
Okay, so this year, within the calendar year sort of thing?
Yeah, before Christmas, so if you guys are looking for Christmas presents, hit me up.
It's a good idea,
for sure.
So if someone's hearing about you for the first time on this show, what's the best thing for them to do to find out, hear some of your music, find out where you're playing a show, buy a t-shirt maybe? Like, what's the best option?
You can. As of right now, we've taken down a lot of the videos that are on our Facebook, so they don't reflect what
the current sound.
Yeah, they don't reflect what our stuff is going to sound like.
Sure.
So you said it best. The current sound. Anyways, so we do have a few videos on there that you can check out. It's just www.facebook.com/A Rebel Named Riel.
Cool.
And to keep up to date with us as well, you can check out our Instagram. I did, however, lose my phone.
Okay.
So the Instagram has kind of been put on hold.
I think that's why we had to reschedule this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So any upcoming information or show dates or anything will be available on Facebook.
Okay.
As soon as I know, I'll post. And I try to update as much as possible.
Okay, and if people want to hear more episodes of this show, you go to witchpolice.com. All 300 and whatever episodes, because I don't know when this is going to come out, are there for free download and streaming, so you can go back through the archives if you want. You probably know, I'm sure some of the people we've had on the show are musicians you've interacted with or worked with, whatever, so it's a big archive there. And you can also tune in on Sundays at midnight on 101.5 UMFM, and those are older episodes that kind of get a second win. They're a little bit behind on when they release the radio version, so, I mean, could be 3 months from now, 4 months from now, but all of a sudden you're driving in your car at midnight on Sunday, turn it on, there's this episode. So it's kind of cool because they're always available to download, but it's just like an extra bonus. It's like you have to be tuning in, maybe hear a band you didn't know about, and then you go back and find the download and listen to the whole thing at home or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And then of course all the social media, Witchpolice, you're gonna find this for the most part. So, but yeah, before this battery dies, thanks a lot for meeting me at the food court, and good luck with the rest of the weather.
Thank you very much for having me in the food court. But no, this has been awesome. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it.
Right on. Thanks.